Wednesday, July 6th. We are back from a long weekend. You have the color to show it, Peter. And I'm jealous because I did not get nearly as much sun. You look great. You look vibrant. How was your Memorial Day, July 4th weekend?
July 4th was great in San Diego. And something I just want to address quickly first, because yes, my face is red, but my feet are even redder. I'm in pain. My voice is a little bit gone. So I may look good, but I don't feel good mentally, especially because I just had the worst day of betting in the entire season so far. And I want to address it too, because it was the first day of the season where I was traveling back from San Diego. So I was unable to do a write-up. I haven't missed a write-up the entire year. Didn't miss a write-up last year either. And just overextended myself, went with some picks that I liked, and it just bit me in the ass. So, I was on this incredible heater. We won 7 bets in a row. And that's just gambling at the end of the day. Like, it's not gambling advice, but I know a lot of people tail these picks. Of course, a lot of people do. And this season is going to have some crazy terrains where we go on crazy hot streaks and then it all comes crashing down. That's why we don't parlay and we keep a level head and we just try and make it. But honestly, I got cocky. I just got cocky and it bit me in the ass. And for anyone that lost on the picks, and I understand it's not gambling advice, but we all know what that means. I apologize.
It was a heat check.
It was a heat check and it was a bad day and I'm going to be better. That's all I have to say.
Very serious start to what is going to be a fun,
which is going to be a really fun episode.
A really fun episode. But no, I mean, it was a heat check. We all take the heat check sometimes, and then it reminds you, like, you get away from what works for you, then you think you could still do it, and you got to stick with the routine.
Yeah,
there's a reason. And Sandy Alcantara, I got to talk about that guy's been sticking to his routine, and he has kept this Marlins season afloat. No mailbag question on Sandy, but I wanted to just open with that because I just watched that game real quick. And before we get to these questions, dude, I mean, I just can't tell you how much it really means to be able to see this guy pitch, because what Jose Fernandez's death did to, like, the Marlins fan base, to baseball as a whole, but, like, you were never going to replace Jose. And I don't want Sandy to be, like, even in that kind of idea of a conversation here. It's not for that point, but just for the Marlins as a franchise, for Marlins fans to get that guy that they look forward to every 5th day. Because now it's the first time I'm really seeing that buzz again. More fans in the ballpark. People like, it's Sandy Day. I haven't seen that since Jose Fernandez, and it's been pretty damn cool. So what he's doing, Peter, is pretty insane. And from a guy that's, not watching the Marlins with as much intent as I am, which is everybody else on planet Earth, because no one really cares about the Marlins. Like, it seems like Sandy's almost transcending the fish a little bit. And that's what Jose Fernandez did. Are you seeing that as a guy in, like, a fan of a big base, a team that gets plenty of coverage? What are your thoughts on just what you're seeing from Sandy and the coverage he's starting to get right now?
The coverage and what he's doing is two different things, because I still don't think he's getting enough coverage. I mean, it has to, like, imagine if Sandy Alcantara was in New York right now, or in Boston, or in LA. Yeah. He would be one of the biggest stars in America if we're talking about if we're just talking about sports right now. Like, that's
he's also
the kind
handsome
of player, and he's very handsome, and he's very tall, and he's built like a brick shithouse. He's a horse of all horses in baseball. And I was listening to the podcast actually on my ride home from San Diego. You and Jack were talking about Shane McClanahan versus Sandy Alcantara. Like, who's the better pitcher? Who would you rather have? And I'm sitting there in the car saying, guys, it's Sandy. I mean, of course it's Sandy, but you guys made some really good points, because you said Shane, I mean, if you need 6 innings, the electric type stuff, that's what you're going to get from Shane. But think about it. You need to win one game. And we talked about, you guys talked about the bullpens and how it's important too, because the Rays have this great bullpen, so they don't need to extend Shane that much. But at the end of the day, Sandy, it doesn't matter what kind of bullpen you have. It doesn't matter if you have Josh Hader, Devin Williams, and Brad Boxberger. Sandy's going 9 regardless, because right now you need one game to win. It's Sandy.
It's Sandy. I agree, because in the way that's the point that I love is no matter how good a reliever is, the more pitchers that you put in a game, the better chance there is that one of those guys is going to be off that day. Right. Mm-hmm. So, like, that's why I always thought the splits and all of that, when you're going to a bunch of different relievers, is risky, because the more players that you put into a game, the more relievers you put into a game, there's a higher chance that one of those guys doesn't have it. And if you can limit that, if you can go starter to closer or just starter all the way, you're in business. And that's what Sandy's doing for a Marlins team that has a shaky back end of the bullpen, though Tanner Scott seemed to have kind of taken over the role as a closer. It's just been really cool to see. And I wonder now, we're going to talk about deadline moves and things like that. There are some teams that are kind of teetering there. And over the next 3 weeks, we're going to see some teams start to either put themselves in that conversation of buyers or realize that they're sellers. And the Mariners are heating up. That was a team that we got a question about, which we'll get to. Marlins are heating up. It's going to be interesting to see if they're buyers. But on the other side of it, the Red Sox just called up Ryan Baio. And that's a guy I've been talking about a lot, a prospect I really like. And this question at first, I was like, no way could the Red Sox be one of the best three teams in the AL right now. But when I really looked at it, it seems like it's the Yankees, the Astros, and everybody else. So I'll read the question, and then I want your thoughts on this, Peter. The Yankees and the Astros have clearly been the first and second best teams in the AL, respectively. Who's third? Red Sox, Twins, Blue Jays, Rays, Guardians, etc. That comes from I'm Not Suspended on Twitter, so I guess they're not suspended.
Not suspended.
It is actually crazy. I would say that it's the Yankees and Astros. You got a gap, but there has to be a third team. And right now, I would say it's the Red Sox.
Can I be honest with you again? Again, I was hearing you guys on the podcast. The Astros might be better than the Yankees.
So you're agreeing with the stuff I was saying.
Yes,
because you're on my wavelength. Because I said Sandy and I said Astros.
That's what I'm saying. Listen to this for a second. When we're going through the starting rotation, the Astros have a better starting rotation than the Yankees do. The Yankees might have been, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me of like who is the starter ERA leaders right now. And it could still be the Yankees. But at the end of the day, because what Christian Javier has been able to do, and I was talking about how I was terrible at betting today. That's maybe my worst take of the year, is not thinking highly enough of Christian Javier. What I saw was a swingman type with 2 pitches. The slider, never had a problem with it. Always excellent. But the fastball was 93. I didn't know how it would play up when he has to go 6-7 innings. But now he throws 96 and it's high spin and it's electric and he has great command. And you just go down the list. There is no off day in this rotation. If we're talking about bullpens, Astros might have a better bullpen. They really might.
Really? You would take the Astros bullpen. It's amazing how much quicker the Astros bullpen has gotten good because it was a problem for them, even in the early points of last year. But with Clay Holmes, with what you're getting from Michael King, with what you're getting from some of your guys, you still lean Astros bullpen wise. I
mean, if we're talking about like bullpen ERA, I mean, the Astros are right there. Maybe, okay, let's say that's a push because both are elite. We go offensively. The Yankees have more swing and miss in their game. But what? You go 1 through 9 down the Astros lineup. You lose Carlos Correa. Jeremy Pena has been phenomenal. Even Martin Maldonado is a guy who never has hit, but has been able to command that rotation so effectively. So they have to put him out there. But now I was looking at the differences in hard hit rates from last year. Martin Maldonado was number 2, an increase in hard hit rate from last year. Gleyber Torres was actually number 1, but Martin Maldonado was number 2. So if you're going down 1 to 9, there's no breaks with this team either. And if we're looking about how they played each other lately, the Astros came into New York, dominated. And even some of the Yankees wins, they were comeback wins. It was great for the Yankees, but the Astros were winning more innings than they even had wins, if that makes sense. Like they were winning. It's
going to be an awesome series. That's going to be, I hope we get 7 phenomenal. Of that. I hope that's ALCS. We get 7 games of that. And I think what it really boils down to, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, is really the rotation, right? What do the Astros get from Lance McCullers? Does Nestor Cortez maintain what he's doing? Or does he, kind of get back to what he was doing earlier in the year? Does Jameson Taillon kind of keep doing what
he's got blown up?
Yeah. So that's the big question. Can Justin Verlander at 39, 40 years old sustain what he's doing? There's a lot of questions back and forth. It's a long season. And I think it's going to be those 2 teams teetering between number 1. Who's your number 2? Because I look across, we look at the Red Sox, we look at the Twins. I think they're similar. The Blue Jays are a team I really wanted to, but I look at the pitching situation and I'm like, dude, I don't know if I can legitimately sit here and say, I feel better about the Blue Jays and the Red Sox, because I think the Red Sox offense keeps right up there with the Jays. and they find a way to just piece together the pitching. I really, you talk about bad takes. I doubt the Red Sox every chance I can get. I don't understand how they really find ways to put together good outings. They stretch guys out that you wouldn't think would be able to be stretched out. They get quality starts from guys you wouldn't think would give you quality starts. And they, similar to the Astros, they've got their guy waiting in the wings. Chris Sale can come back soon. He looked good in his rehab start. He was throwing hard. If they get Chris Sale even back to 75% of who he is, they go out and make a move or two. I think that the Red Sox have got to be number 3 right now in the AL. Is that where you're at?
I think you said that perfectly. I think it's exactly right. And I think it's a lot to do with Alex Cora, the manager of the Red Sox.
I agree.
I think what he's done now, it's clear that he is the best manager in baseball. He understands his team more than I think any other manager does. And when we talk about guys who we don't think that can be extended, in outings or relievers, but he just pieces together. He always knows the right puzzle pieces. He's a chess master. He's really phenomenal. And he just understands how to put his team together and give them a chance to win every single day. We talk about the bullpen. Bullpen's been great. Talk about the starting rotation, been great. And we know that they're going to hit. And even improvements on defense, right? Yeah. Even improvements on defense. We joke around about Jackie Bradley Jr., but he's a great defender. Jaron Duran comes up. Even Devers is looking better at third base. Just around the diamond, they're much better than even I thought they would be. Because I have been pro Red Sox this season. I always just thought there's no way that they're going to fall off this cliff. And when we were talking about Xander Bogaerts mock trades, I even said, I just still don't think he's going to get traded because I think the Red Sox are still going to be good. But now the Red Sox, I think, are the third best team. They have the third best run differential in the American League. And from top to bottom, with Alex Cora at the helm, the Red Sox are going to be right there at the end. But with that said, and I want to throw this one to you, when we're looking at the end of the season, because right now it's the Red Sox, and that's the question at hand. But at the end of the season, I still think it's going to be the Rays.
Yeah. I had a feeling you were going to go there.
I still do.
They just got Wander back, and this team needed offense more than I think almost any competitive team in baseball right now. And I look at what they're able to do, what they have farm system wise, so many of their pieces that they can go out and make a trade and go get somebody. We know the pitching is good. I would still think that the Rays will be in that conversation for sure. And I am interested to see how the Red Sox pitching holds up. Getting Chris Sale is great. But is Nick Pivetta going to keep doing what he's doing? Maybe. He's been phenomenal. They do get Garrett Whitlock back, but they're also relying on Rich Hill and some other guys who do more things than you'd expect. I think Michael Wacha is going to continue to kind of slow down a little bit. What is Tanner Houck? Is he a reliever? Is he going to start for them? Is he going to be a closer? I think they have some things to sort out, but what you said, Cora seems to just know his team. That team chemistry, I really think is a huge part of it as well. I was talking to Colby Olson about this, and Colby's a big Red Sox fan, watches them more than any of us do. And he's like, dude, I'm telling you, don't underestimate just the way these guys like to play with each other. I watch them, pull each other in the cart. Like there's just a lot of team chemistry there. They like to play with each other. That group has stayed together for a while now. The Red Sox may end up with the third best record, but when it comes playoff time, it'll be tough to beat the Rays, especially when they have arguably the best pitcher in the AL. I don't even think it's arguable at this point with Shane McClanahan. So it's going to be close, but right now I would say the answer is Red Sox. I think the answer is the Red Sox. The Twins are definitely up there. There's a lot of teams that are right there. We talked about the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays have their problems, and it's crazy. I was looking at xERA leaders today. And do you know who has the worst expected ERA, which is StatCast's definition of what they think that your ERA should be based on batted ball data and all these different factors that Baseball Savant uses? And I would suggest going on Baseball Savant, and you see that your favorite pitcher, he has a 3 ERA, but go look at what Baseball Savant expects his ERA to look like. Do you know who has the worst xERA in all of baseball? I might have given it away because I was just talking about this team, but who do you think it is? The worst xERA? The worst in all of baseball for those who qualify. Michael Wacha? No. Jose Barrios. Oh, we're talking about, okay. I'm thinking like differentiator. No. Yeah, that's my bad. No. The actual worst. Like of all ERA. Pitchers in baseball, the worst xERA. No, we talk about Patrick Corbin. We talk about how bad German Marquez has been. The worst expected ERA in baseball is Jose Barrios.
The
And
man
what are you
who
going to
signed a
do?
7-year deal. What do you do?
You're not sending him to
know
AAA.
And we have a lot of great questions about some of these trade pieces. They have, and again, you guys said it on the podcast yesterday. I just totally agreed. You have to get a starter yesterday, not today, not tomorrow, yesterday,
It'll
right
get
now.
away from you quick.
They have to be on the phone. And, Montes with the shoulder discomfort, but there are a bunch of different starters. I mean, just go get Merrill Kelly. Go get Merrill Kelly right now. Something like that. You have to have a stopgap right now, or the Blue Jays are just going to continue to falter because you can only hit so much. Because even in the bullpen, they're blowing games in the bullpen too. I mean, Jordan Romano's a great closer. He's had his blowups this year. And I mean, we'll see if he's just continually going to be great because he's thrown a lot of innings too. They have Adam Simber. They don't have that many great bullpen arms. The pitching is the problem for the Blue Jays. It's almost what I think a lot of us thought that the Red Sox would deal with. But that's not been the case.
I do agree. It is a little bit of a flip-flop. I would say if you gave me like the blind numbers without the team name at this point ahead of the year, I would have guessed that all of the Red Sox numbers were the Blue Jays and vice versa. I think that's a good point. And if they go get an arm, though, I think it changes a lot. If they go out and get an impact arm, it changes their outlook quite drastically. And they have the ability to go get somebody a little bit more than I think the Red Sox do trade-wise.
And I think I'm a little bit more nervous about Kevin Gausman than you and Jack were. When I was listening, because you guys talked about the ankle contusion, that he's going to be totally fine. But, Kevin Gausman fell off a cliff in the second half. And I've been saying this kind of all year, not saying that I'm waiting for the exact same thing to happen, because that could have been just a fluke thing. But Kevin Gausman hasn't been elite now for that long.
No,
so he had an amazing first half, then fell off a cliff in the second half. He's had an amazing first half. We'll see. I'm not saying, again, he's going to fall off a cliff, but it is something to watch. Aram, what if he has a similar type second half to last year? Jose Barrios doesn't bounce back. And Alek Manoah is still really young. I mean, he's phenomenal. And we're going to talk about our best starting rotations of under 27 years old, which is going to be a great time, great conversation. But besides Manoah, I mean, Yusei Kikuchi is one of the most inconsistent pitchers in baseball. Ryu's on the shelf. They could be in for a really bad second half.
I agree. And I think they know that writing might be on the wall. And I'm very interested to see, what moves they make. They have some trade pieces. They could make a move. The Red Sox were able to go internally and get Brian Bayo. And as people are listening to this, he's making that debut today. So that'll be exciting to see how he performs in that first start. Easier, shorter, pretty direct question here from Dom Foley, who seems to be one of our most frequent question askers here and always has good ones. Who has the worst contract in Major League Baseball? I think that's a good one because there's a lot of bad contracts. Baseball loves to hand out the 10+ year deals. And there's been several that are bad in the more 5 to 7 year range. There's one that hurts me. I think I have my answer that kind of hurts me. It's sad to say, but I'm curious what yours is first.
The worst contract in baseball right now has to be Steven Strasburg.
Yeah.
Has to be Steven Strasburg. 7 years. $245 million. And you could use Patrick Corbin, I guess, but at least Patrick Corbin's pitching. And he's actually looked better in his last two starts too.
Okay the last years.
I'd rather my pitcher pitch. And when we saw Strasburg, I mean, he's barely touching 90 miles an hour. It's a far cry away from the 100 miles an hour that we saw in his debut, which seems like a century ago. I mean, he's just straight up not pitching. And when he finally came back and was healthy, for all those on YouTube, in quotes, healthy, he didn't look healthy at all, dude.
No,
he didn't look healthy.
He got hurt again.
And he's probably not going to pitch again this year. And he's making so much money. But on the other side, at the plate, it's not the worst yet. But at what point do we look at the Anthony Rendon contract and say to ourselves, that's a really bad contract?
Yeah. Honestly, like Rendon is still salvageable because he's like not
29
a pitcher with an arm that's totally done. But I agree, like that one, because of how much there is left in that deal, could get really bad and really ugly, which is crazy because the Angels just got out from their other bad deals and now they're tied up in that one. Strasburg is the worst because he's under contract until 2026 at $35 million a year. I don't even see how he pitches in 2026. He might retire before that. And like, it's really tough because I was covering that game when he made his return, and he was smiles, and, he was very nice to reporters, even though it was a rough outing. And, I want him to do well so badly, or even just go out there and compete. But I don't even think he can physically pitch every fifth day right now with the issues he's had with his arm. It's been so many different injuries, now thoracic outlet. That's got to be the worst contract. I don't know how insurance works in this situation. I don't know if the Nationals have that contract insured, but that aside, like, has to be the worst contract. Some other honorable mentions. I thought Madison Bumgarner's was bad, but it's just not enough for it to be in that department. He's also been somewhat competitive this year.
Yeah.
I think Jason Hayward at 8 for 184 is pretty bad. Not ideal. Robbie Cano, I mean, the Mets are paying him to play for somebody else right now. That one's pretty bad. But I would say
Eric Hosmer's making a lot of money to be mid. I mean, he's making a lot of money
to hit the ball straight in the ground.
Still hits it hard, but
straight in the ground. It's got to be Strasburg, right? And it's sad because he got that deal right after the World Series, and I think the Nationals, they were drinking the Kool-Aid. They were excited, but you had to know that there was a lot of injury risk even going into that year when he was able to pitch through the postseason. So rough deal for them there, but hopefully Strasburg can try to salvage a little bit of his career here and finish on his terms, but we'll see if that happens. A guy that's also out with injury, but not nearly as bad, obviously, broken thumb. He said he wished it hit him in the face, which is crazy. Shows you how crazy Bryce Harper is. He said he'd rather have gotten hit in the face. The Phillies lose Harper. That is one of the biggest losses for any team when we're talking about, the most valuable player last year looked like the same offensive guy this year. Yes, he was DHing, but it doesn't matter. He was so good for them. But the Phillies have stayed afloat, largely in part because of their suspect bullpen actually being one of the best bullpens over the last couple of weeks. I have no idea what's going on there, but it's amazing. As we're recording this, Peter, they're one game out of a wild card spot, one game behind the Cardinals, could potentially be half a game back if the score holds in the game between the Cardinals and the Braves. The question that we have here from Loops 0917 is there any way the Phillies can make the playoffs now that Bryce Harper is out for a decent portion of the season? I think anytime you got a team that's a game out, you got to say they've got a chance. Yes. I think it's more of a question of how good is the chance? Where do you stand on their situation right now?
Here's my thing, Arm. I don't like the Phillies brand of baseball. I'm going to be completely honest with you. And, everybody says I'm a Phillies hater. And it's not that I hate the Phillies. I just don't like how they constructed this current roster. They doubled down on things that don't work, in my opinion. Yes. Has the Phillies bullpen been great? Of course. It's been really good lately. Are we expecting that to continue unless they make some major moves for, a David Bednar who's getting ran into the ground right now by Pittsburgh? I heard you guys talk about that too. I was just watching. They throw him out there for like 2 innings. It seems like 4 or 5 times a week.
Like a half a starter every 2 days.
He's a swing man and a closer at the same time. It's just too much. They doubled down on bad defense, and Nick Castellanos, he looks horrible out there, and Schwarber doesn't look good out there either. But at the same time, they are a team that will be aggressive at the deadline. We think that they're going to add an outfielder, maybe a Ramon Laureano. To your guys' point earlier in the podcast, you guys talked about Michael A. Taylor, a lot of options like that. Maybe they go big for Cedric Mullins if the Orioles decide to sell, which I don't think they should, but it could happen. Realistically, he's not completely off the market, even a Brian Reynolds type. The pitching looks much better. Wheeler looks great. Nola looks great. But besides them two, there's not a lot to get excited about. Ranger Suarez has not replicated what he did last year. Kyle Gibson has been very inconsistent here too. I don't think that the Phillies will make the playoffs. I'm saying that right now. I really don't. With Bryce Harper, maybe I'm taking a little bit of a step back. But without him, who's hitting 318 with 15 bombs and slugging 600, clearly the best hitter on that team. Now, we just had the Kyle Schwarber Jr., where he's always been amazing. Will he continue to do that? We will see.
He has to.
He has to. Exactly. All of these guys have to perform when they are a streaky team. And the reason I don't like this brand of baseball, Arm, is I've seen this brand of baseball already not work.
Yeah, the
We
Yankees.
know it doesn't work. I watch these shit Yankee teams that made me want to punch a hole in my TV because they're polarizing. A lot of swing and miss, bad defense. And with the Yankees, at least they always had these good bullpens. But I'm not relying on the Phillies to win close one-run games. Why I like the Rays so much is I love that brand of baseball. They're going to win one-run games. They're going to win games that make you scratch your head and be like, they didn't even play well, but they won. The Phillies have to play really well to win.
Yeah.
I don't think that the Phillies will make the playoffs. I really don't. But with the new wild cards, it could be possible that they sneak in. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying if you put a gun to my head and said, Peter, do you think the Phillies will make the playoffs? Just like I took their under on win total this year. Yeah. They're too polarizing. I don't think that they will.
Well, you look at the wild card situation right now. I mean, we know that the Mets are the Braves. Probably the Mets are taking the division, which means a really good team is anchoring that top wild card spot. We know that it's going to be a runaway, at least for the most part, with the Dodgers. So a really good San Diego Padres team's probably going to take the second wild card spot. Where it's going to be really free is that third spot. Right now, St. Louis holds it by a half a game, which is nuts, over Philadelphia, with San Francisco a game and a half behind and the Marlins 3 games out. That's the only thing, is they really only have to outlast the Giants and catch the Cardinals. The Cardinals have a little bit more going for them. You know, I think that they obviously are the opposite of the Phillies in regards to defense, but their pitching is suspect. And their bullpen is in part suspect. They have one of the best relievers in the game in Helsley, but outside of that, there's a little bit to be figured out there. This is going to be interesting because to me, it's more of who makes the right moves at the deadline. Because right now we see 2 teams that need to make moves, and the Cardinals have a wealth of prospects and a wealth of upper minor league level prospects, meaning guys that are close to big league ready, which is what a lot of teams are coveting. Cardinals could almost go get anybody they want. Even without trading one of their main prospects, they could get almost anybody they want if they put the right package together. The Phillies, they'd have to deplete the system. It would be tough. I think for that reason, the Cardinals are going to be aggressive. Pujols' last year, Yadi's last year, Waino's last year. I think they go out and they make a splash. They've really been kind of waiting and been quiet. If they make that splash, I don't see how the Phillies keep up, especially because I think Harper's injury is going to keep him out a little bit longer. All of the stuff you said, I agree. Wheeler and Nola have been phenomenal, especially
Unreal.
Nola taking it to the next level. That's going to help keep them afloat. Hoskins and Schwarber have to rake, but they've got to go make a move, and it's going to be hard for the Phillies to make a move. And for that reason, I just don't know if they can do it. But I think they're going to float around, and they're going to be playing competitive games the whole year. I think they'll be, in the hunt until the bitter end. But I just don't think they have what it takes to outlast. And you're relying, like you said, on a lot of relievers who are pitching well right now. But do you trust Connor Brogdon? Do you trust some of these dudes? I don't know if I do. And that's where they're at now. Maybe Mark Appel can step up and kind of fill in there. It's been nice to see him pitch 2 good outings so far.
2 points on the Cardinals. First, there's no way it's Albert Pujols' last year. I think he's going to sign another 5-year deal.
Another 5-year deal?
No, but that's just a joke. About the bullpen, I think you're undervaluing the Cardinals bullpen a little bit because Giovanni Gallegos is real.
Yeah, he's been really good.
Genesis Cabrera, they have a lot of really good guys when they get Alex Reyes back. They have a lot of really good arms. I trust that bullpen way more than I trust the Phillies bullpen. And on the other side of it too, when we're talking defense, it's literally not even close.
No,
the Cardinals are going to win.
The most opposite it could ever be.
And then to end that point, we're seeing the impact that Yadier Molina has had on this team. With Ivan Herrera, with Knizer, with a lot of these catchers that they've been using, Romine. Yadier Molina commands the staff. We've seen differences in Adam Wainwright. We've seen differences in Dakota Hudson. A lot of their arms where Yadi has been that, ultimate confidence guy. That I have Yadier Molina. I'm going to have confidence whenever I throw. That's what Yadier Molina gives you. And he's still a good defender back there. Yes, he's not going to hit, but they don't need him to hit because they have so many other guys.
Yeah.
I think this Cardinals team, you add one more starter and they just are better than the Phillies in my mind. And, I'm not counting out the Giants yet. And I know you also took your victory lap on the Giants. I'm not counting them out yet. I understand why you did that, because they've been playing like garbage and they look old. They look decrepit. They don't look like they have nearly the same magic as last year. But again, this is a team that went and got Chris Bryant at the deadline.
Yeah.
I just don't think that we should totally count them out of it.
No, never.
I think just stepping back and saying they're not the 107 win team. Clearly, they were due to regress. I didn't think they would regress this much. That's also, again, on me, but I don't think that it's over. Right now, I still think that the Giants are better than the Phillies. I really do. I'm sorry. I do.
Look, that's fair. And Logan Webb, kind of back looking like Logan Webb in some ways again. And I like some of the guys that they have in the system. They just called up David Villar, who's one of the best hitters in the minor leagues this year. Maybe he can contribute. They find ways to kind of pull rabbits out of hats, and I'm interested to see what they do. They just got to stay in striking range with the expanded playoffs as well, and they could sneak their way in. So I'm not swearing them off, but they're definitely, as you said, a diminished team from last year, without a doubt. The next question is a really fun one. If you guys are able to make a rotation of 5 pitchers under 27 years old, 3 righties, 2 lefties for the next 5 to 7 years, who are your top 5?
This is a great question.
Wonderful. And we talked about 2 of the guys already. I mean, like I know that Sandy and Shane McClanahan are shoo-ins, 1 righty, 1 lefty right off the bat. I mean, these guys are young, but already proven in a lot of different ways and get better every time we see them. No brainer there.
No brainer there. The other lefty that I want to put in is Julio Urias.
Yep, that's mine.
Julio
I bet
Urias
you we have the before you go. I bet you we have the same list.
I bet you
anyway,
we have one too. And then the next now, so we have 2 lefties, which is Shane McClanahan, Julio Urias, and then one of the righties is clearly Sandy. But the other clear choice is Corbin Burns.
Which
clearly,
forget how young he is. I feel like he's 28, 29, late bloomer kind of guy. He's young. Corbin Burns is a no-brainer. And this is where we talked about this actually before we recorded. There's probably 2 guys you can go with here for the final righty, right?
Mm-hmm. And I'm just looking up because I think Corbin Burns, I might have just messed it up. I think he's 27, not 26, but he still qualifies for this list. So I think the distinction right now, if we're looking at, who's the best under 27, for me, I'm flip-flopping between Dylan Cease and Alek Manoah.
Yeah.
And I think both are correct in a weird way.
Yes.
Because I think both have their strong suits and I think both have weaknesses. And I think Dylan Cease has proved it a little bit longer, but that's just because he's a little bit older. So I feel like at this point now we know about Dylan Cease, and Colby made a really good point in the group chat. If he can just cut the walks, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. And it's not even that close. If we're talking about stuff, he strikes out over 13 guys per 9 inning. Nobody does that. I mean, Shane McClanahan does that, but barely. I mean, that's the type of pitcher that Dylan Cease can be. But the problem with Dylan Cease is you look up in the 6th inning, he hasn't allowed to run, but he's at 105 pitches. You look up in the 5th inning, hasn't allowed to run, but he's at 98 pitches. That's what we have to deal with all the time with Dylan Cease. Incredible stuff. High spin fastball, elite curveball, phenomenal slider. But man, dude, and he gets so many swings and misses
it's
that
insane.
the pitches just rack up too. That's another thing. And with Alek Manoah on the other side, 14 more innings than Dylan Cease so far this year. Alek Manoah doesn't strike out the amount of hitters that Dylan Cease does, actually far less, but has much better command. We're looking at just peripherals this season. Dylan Cease's peripherals have performed better than Manoah, but Alek Manoah's overall ERA, so just what he has produced, has been better than Dylan Cease too. So it's so tough. It's so tough. What would you go with?
So I would lean Manoah for a couple reasons, because I think you set the stage perfectly. And honestly, I would expect that the audience right now listening, half of them are leaning one way, the other half is leaning the other way.
And they're both right.
And they're both right. I have zero issue with either. I would just play it safe because it's so hard to find a young, controllable starter that is so talented. And just give me the guy that's 24, 6'6", 250 pounds, and goes deep into games. You laid it out, right? They both have 16 starts. One of them has 86 innings pitched. The other one has 103 innings pitched. And I think Manoah could even be stretched out more and more.
Agreed.
Gets weak contact and also gets the swings and misses when you need it. I love that because that's something that to me, like it's hard to teach that. That's almost like a nuanced pitchability type of thing. And finding that balance, like Sandy Alcantara, that's the one thing I've really marveled at is he was never a high swing and miss guy. He doesn't even call himself a strikeout pitcher. When he needs the strikeouts, he'll get them. but he
Funny.
wants to go deep into games. He
Yeah.
wants to get weak contact. He pitches the bottom of the zone, and he can balance the two. Dylan Cease, he's got to strike you out. And the biggest thing is Dylan Cease's biggest competition in a start is himself.
Yep.
It's not, it doesn't matter who's standing in the plate at the plate. They're more than likely going to swing and miss. It's really just his biggest competition is himself. And it is interesting because he is definitely winning that competition overall. But give me the safe guy with Manoah who throws strikes, and really the ERA numbers, like you said, surface level are pretty similar.
Listen to this point. I think it's harder to hit Dylan Cease, but Alek Manoah might be a better pitcher, if that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, like
totally makes sense.
One at bat, Dylan Cease is probably with stuff can get that hitter out more often. But if I need a long start, let's say the bullpen has been taxed, I need Alek Manoah to give me 7 or 8, and I'm much more confident in that. Dylan Cease can give you kind of similar to the Shane McClanahan versus the Sandy conversation. But with Sandy, it's a little bit different because he legit goes 9. And it was funny when you said he's not a strikeout pitcher. Yeah, but he's still striking out like 9 per 9.
I know.
He's so good. I mean, he's amazing. But that's almost how I'm thinking about it. Is that Shane McClanahan doesn't walk anybody, which is also incredible. But these guys are relievers as starters. That's the type of stuff that they have. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if I had to make a decision, I'll take Alek Manoah.
Yeah.
I'll take Alek Manoah.
You sound disappointed.
I am, because if Cease can limit the walks, he's better. That's in my opinion. If Cease can limit the walks, he's better. That's it.
But here's the thing.
But that's a big if.
And last year, he looked like he made that step in that direction, walked 3.69 per 9, and then he's back up to 4.19 per 9.
I know.
So it's like, which isn't going to do him in, but it's like, okay, maybe this is who he is, which is great. A really damn good pitcher. But Alek Manoah might keep getting better, man. This dude's 24.
Exactly.
And, he might develop his other stuff a little bit more too. And I mean, we know the slider is one of the best in baseball. The changeup keeps getting better.
Yeah.
Give me the 24-year-old who's, can kind of stay on this trajectory. But
and to that point too, I think we've talked about at the beginning of the season. Remember when I said Alek Manoah is a Yankee killer? Yeah. Alek Manoah pitches in a much harder division.
Yes.
Talking about the Red Sox,
by a lot.
Talking about the Yankees, even the Orioles, great offense too. And then the Rays, we make fun of them too, but Isaac Paredes is Jesus Christ reincarnated.
Yeah,
right now,
which is insane.
Tearing the cover off the ball. Of course, he came over from the Tigers. He was like an extra throw-in, or basically kind of, below average. I looked
at that deal. I was like, why?
Bat. Yeah. And yet now he hits 3rd or 4th, or he could hit wherever he wants to the lineup, and he's been amazing. But that's also another pro for Alek Manoah. He's facing tougher competition. When we look at the White Sox, he has to face the Twins, but the Guardians have their struggles offensively. And if we're looking at the Royals and the Tigers, you could make the argument those are 2 of the worst offensive teams. Tigers have been performing much better lately, but the Royals, he doesn't have to face the same level of competition that Alek Manoah has day in and day out. But then again, to that point, when the schedule changes next year, when you don't face your division as much, maybe then that point becomes kind of null and void. Yeah. So it's just such an interesting.
It'll be interesting to see how the numbers go. It'll be interesting to see how the numbers go when he doesn't have to face some of the best lineups in baseball so much more frequently. And it feels like Manoah's pitches against the Yankees every 2 weeks. So it is interesting to see how that'll shake out in the future. Speaking of the future, we got a similar type of question of who you would rather have with 2 of the best young players in the game. The question is from braden.odom on Instagram. It's braden.odom. For the next 7 years, would you rather have Bobby Witt Jr. or Oneil Cruz? And man, again, it's like, you can't go wrong. A pair of just insane shortstops. What is your answer on this one, Peter?
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I think you can go wrong here. It has to be Bobby Witt.
Oh, wow.
Bobby Witt's floor is an all-star. Dude, I'm watching this guy play defense. Remember how he played 3rd for a little bit and was pretty good, and then he slides over to shortstop?
Yeah, I was so pissed.
Phenomenal.
All the time.
We're talking about speed, like all of these crazy tools Oneil Cruz has, right? He's 6'7", he throws 100 across the diamond, he hits crazy power. Is Bobby Witt not a tad below that? And just probably a better overall baseball player at his core. He's got a better bat to ball. Bobby Witt can, a home run is great when he hits it when Oneil Cruz hits one 460, but a 420-foot home run still goes out of the ballpark too. And if we're talking about speed, Witt's faster. Witt's a better defender at shortstop than Oneil Cruz is. And if we're just looking at the history of baseball, we've never seen a 6'7" shortstop. We've seen 6'7" outfielders in Aaron Judge. And what has always been Aaron Judge's kryptonite is staying healthy. He's been healthy all year. And that's kind of an overblown narrative at this point because he's really been healthy now for the past couple of years. But there's always that, there's always that worry because Oneil Cruz also plays with aggressively. He's stealing bags. Like there's always opportunities. Playing shortstop, which is a much more demanding position than a corner outfield is, especially in right field at Yankee Stadium where Aaron Judge is dealing with a short porch anyway. So I think it has to be Bobby Witt. Oneil Cruz is very, very exciting, but it has to be Bobby Witt. But I want to ask you again. Julio Rodriguez looks like the best player in baseball. I mean, oh my God, this man is amazing.
He legit does right now. And I'll get to that in a second. To answer this question though, for me, I wasn't even going to blank and say Bobby Witt, but I was kind of curious to see what you would say, or maybe what some other people would say. I can't say anybody else because I ranked Bobby Witt Jr. ahead of Oneil Cruz. So I would just be a hypocrite to change my mind after 2 weeks of baseball at the major league level. The reason why is all of the things that you said, right? Like he does everything across the board. And I mean, we've seen already insane production, but the craziest part about all of this is Oneil Cruz has been playing professional baseball since Bobby Witt Jr. was, like a sophomore in high school or like a junior. Like he has so many more games under his belt. Bobby Witt has hardly played in the minor leagues, really only played. He had 37 games in rookie ball in 2019. No season in 2020, then played the 120 game season last year between double and triple A. And we know what he did last year.
Destroyed baseballs.
Just destroyed baseballs in his first professional season. Now goes straight to the big leagues. I mean, this is one of the faster tracks we've seen to the big leagues. And slow start, like we said, I warned everybody about the slow start happening. He has been phenomenal since then. He's gonna probably finish 2020 this year with elite defense, as you mentioned, and just all around good baseball player. Bobby Witt is safer, and I don't think you're giving up that much upside here. This guy could still be a legit superstar. Speaking of legit superstars, though, Julio Rodriguez and his athleticism has really just kind of broken through and shown a new dynamic to his game. This guy is the runaway rookie of the year, and it's pretty freaking awesome to see what he's doing. And that's going to lead us into actually our next question, Peter, because the next question is on the Mariners. And we were asking where the Mariners have gone, but you have one more thing to say.
Just one more thing to say. I'm just thinking in my head, what is Oneil Cruz better than Bobby Witt at?
Just like hitting the ball harder.
I mean, come on. The exit velos are awesome.
It doesn't matter. It only matters to a certain threshold. Like
Witt has been going through his struggles. He has 11 home runs and 12 stolen bases. This is a 30-30 guy. And the bat to ball is going to improve because Bobby Witt's basically 14 years old. He's still super young.
He legitimately turned 20 or 22 years old like 2 weeks ago. I think it's a professional baseball baby as well in terms of, just games under his belt.
Do you think, for example, when we're looking back at their career, do you think Oneil Cruz is going to have more career home runs than Bobby Witt will? I don't know that for a fact.
No, I don't think so.
So if we're talking about power, the exit velos, yes. I mean, Oneil Cruz hit some of the hardest baseballs I've ever seen. But the end of the day,
to answer your question, it's highlight reel. Like,
yes,
he will make better highlights, I guess.
Which is cool.
Again, every single plus tool that Oneil has that we marvel about,
Witt has it. He's just not 6'7".
It's just not alien-esque. But
yes.
At a certain level, it all kind of counts the same.
Yes.
And like I said, like you said, 460 feet. Okay. Bobby Witt can hit at 450. Yeah. We've seen him do it. And in terms of max exit velo, Bobby Witt's at 93rd percentile in all of baseball at the big league level right now. So, and sprint speed, he's one of the fastest guys in the game. So it's really
defender.
Yeah. He's a gold glove caliber defender, and he's only going to get better and better. And he's infant younger when it comes to professional games under his belt. Going to the Mariners, because while Bobby Witt would probably win Rookie of the Year almost any other year with the way he starting to trend now, and same with probably Jeremy Pena. It's one of the most loaded rookie classes we've seen in a while. Julio Rodriguez is going to run away with it because he's stealing bags like nobody's business. Now he's hitting like nobody's business. And the craziest part is you look at scouting reports, you look at what every evaluator was writing was, I don't know if he's going to stick in center. He's going to slow down as he gets more thick, probably a corner outfielder. He's playing plus defensive center field right now. Mariners all of a sudden are looking a lot better, and he's playing a huge part of that. The question comes from Austin Fothergill on IG, who says, are the Mariners now buyers with their recent run? They've been on a nice stretch. And who do they go for? Also, I'm a tunnel visioned Mariners fan. So what are some realistic expectations for the rest of the season? We thought the Mariners were going to be good this year. Everyone thought the Mariners were going to be good this year. They started horribly. They are now playing better. They are creeping into an expanded wild card situation here, and they are getting healthy. Ty France will be back soon enough. Mitch Haniger will hopefully be back before, too much time is gone. I still think this team can sneak in, man. I still think they can.
I don't, if I can be completely honest with you.
I
think because I'm being just completely honest with you. I know you're a tunnel vision Mariners fan. I hope you're listening because, we were so pro Mariners, and they're not a bad team. Not a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. But if I'm trying to go into Jerry DiPoto's mind, do you think that Jerry DiPoto sees this team and says, all right, we have to be in win now. This is the window. I don't think that he's doing that. I think they're going to make similar type moves. When they traded away, who they traded? Kendall Graveman. They traded away Kendall Graveman and they added Diego Castillo. I think they might make moves like that. And it's something that you don't want to hear because as a Mariners fan, you deserve better. But Julio Rodriguez is just becoming what I think Ronald Acuna Jr. is. Like if we're talking about who he reminds me of, I posted on Twitter and I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on this too.
Yeah.
I think he reminds me of Ronald Acuna Jr. He's power. He's got the speed. He's got great defense. That's who he reminds me of.
No, I think it's very similar.
But with the Mariners, they get good outings from guys like Marco Gonzalez and like some good outings from Chris Flexen, and Logan Gilbert has really taken that next step. But by the numbers are expecting Logan Gilbert to regress. When we talk about xERA, when we talk about FIP, when we talk about xFIP, those numbers are pointing to a regression for Logan Gilbert. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. I think he might regress slightly, but I still think he's a really good pitcher too. There's just, when they've been doing this without Ty France, which is also phenomenal too. But at the end of the day, we've named a lot of good teams in the American League when we were talking earlier. The Mariners are not as good as any of those teams. I would even venture to say the Mariners are not as good as the White Sox. I would venture to say they're not as good as the Guardians. And, the fucking Angels are so annoying.
I know.
Like when push comes to shove, you might take the Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout team. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think that the Mariners will sneak in. And because I don't know if the window is fully open yet.
That's the only problem is I actually think the Mariners are going to play good baseball. And I think they finish above 500 and I think they're going to finish strong. The problem is the size of the window, right? Yes. That's my concern is I think they're going to play decent ball, but are these AL East teams going to really relent? I think the only way is if that Toronto worst case scenario, which I think is a very possible worst case scenario, happens. If Toronto falls out, and I'll give you the wild card kind of picture right now, then a spot opens up because as you and I both said, we both think Tampa is going to hang in there. As it stands right now in the AL wild card, it's Boston in first in the wild card spot, 2 games above Toronto, then Toronto a half game up on Tampa Bay for the final spot. 2.5 games out is Cleveland, 3.5 games out is Seattle, 4 games out is the Chicago White Sox. I agree. I think Cleveland is a little bit more of a complete team. If they go get a bat, I would lean Cleveland over Seattle. But if Toronto starts to scuffle a little bit, that's maybe the only way I could see a window really opening up. And that's a big if. I mean, I know we're a little worried. They've lost 4 straight. That's still a really good team. I don't know if I see them totally falling apart. I like the Mariners just because the fact that they are kind of alive right now, despite all of their adversity, despite all of the things kind of going poorly for them from losing, even guys like Casey Sadler in the bullpen and getting guys like Penn Murphy stepping up. I think George Kirby is going to bounce back after a rough outing and continue to be a good arm for them. Diego Castillo has been bad for them. You talk about Gilbert's regression. I definitely see that, but then I also see Robbie Ray kind of ticking it back up again. So
Mm-hmm.
they're in a really interesting spot. But to your point, I had the same thought process when I read these questions before we started recording.
Yeah.
And it's what does Jerry Dipoto do?
That's the
Because you
thing
don't want to
too.
mortgage the future right now, right? Like you're building something sustainable here. Yes, they want to win now, but nothing that they've done is said like push all the chips forward. Even the Eugenio Suarez, Jesse Winker deal. Yes, they gave up 2 good pitching prospects, but those were guys they would have had to find 40-man roster spots for pretty soon.
Exactly.
So like it was one of the, like, they had to make a deal at some point because they have so much 40-man talent. I don't think they're going to be overly aggressive, but I do think they're going to play better ball with the current roster. Like, is Jesse Winker going to be this bad?
No.
Like, there's no way, right? No. And J-Rod's going to keep doing what he's doing. I think they're going to be better. And similar to the Phillies, I think they're almost the AL version of the Phillies. I don't know if they get in, but they're going to hang around and they're going to play good ball. And I think that's all you can really ask for, given some of the adversity they've faced.
I think the Mariners are going to win 83 games. And I don't think that's enough to make the playoffs. It's above 500, still a good team, but just not a playoff team. And I think Jerry knows that. And, you could say whatever you want about Jerry Dipoto, the fact that, maybe he hasn't done enough to really make this team legit, but he sees a farm system that's top 5 and they're not 5 and they're not 4. I mean, that's how good this Mariners farm system is. For the next 5 years, the Mariners are going to be one of the better teams in the American League. But right now, in Julio's rookie year, George Kirby is brand new. A lot of these guys, I mean, Matt Brash came up and he didn't have a good start, but we still think that he's going to be a good pitcher. And maybe it's not this year. Maybe next year he comes out and he's great. Kirby takes that next step. And then you still have Gilbert, who's amazing. And then Ray is, it's funny. Jack was like, damn it with Ray. I mean, Ray is still like, that's what I always thought with Robbie Ray, that he's not just going to fall off a cliff and be Arizona Robbie Ray again and just suck. No, he's still like, pitcher. He learned something. He's still a good pitcher. I agree. Yeah. And we've seen it. The Mariners,
104 innings under his belt already this year too. He's kind of an innings eater.
He is an innings eater. And he's been pitching. He's been pitching very well, but he's not getting the same amount of Ks. He's more pitching to contact, which is more interesting, which is good for him. But that's kind of where I stand on the Mariners. Yeah. I think they're a good team. When we look at the American League, I don't think they're a playoff team. And I think Jerry knows that.
They will be soon, though. Yes. I think we all agree on that. We're going to see Julio kind of take that next leap. What are they going to do for Kyle Lewis? Yes. Dude, the guys, he's unbelievable. I think he's been one of the best players in baseball over the last several weeks.
97th percentile in max exit velo. So he hits the ball harder than 97%, his max exit velo. And if we're talking about average, he's in the 91st percentile too. So he's in the top 9th percentile in all of baseball of how hard he hits the ball. And he's in the 92nd percentile in a hard hit rate. If we're talking about outs above average, he is in the 93rd percentile. So by that stat, he is one of the best defenders in the outfield in the sport. Talking about sprint speed, how fast is he? The 97th percentile in sprint speed. He is going to be an MVP in this league. I think he's going to be a multiple time MVP in this league. I think we're going to look at our top 10 overall players when we rank maybe at the end of the season and think to ourselves, there's not that many players more talented than Julio Rodriguez. And that was always why he was my number 1 prospect. Just like because it was Witt. I mean, Witt, Adley, they're all right there. But I was like, you put a gun in my head, like I keep saying, who would I choose? He is just such a freak of nature. It's incredible. He is so, but then again, so is Bobby Witt. I mean, these guys are so good. They're so freaks. Good. And even Adley's hitting much better now too.
Adley's raking now as of late.
They're freaks.
They're all going to be and that is why baseball is in such a good spot. I was talking about this with a couple of guys in pro ball, and like they were like, baseball at the major league level is never really seen this kind of influx of talent. Guys in the minors are even talking about it. Like there is a really good spot for Major League Baseball to be in right now, and these stars are marketable too. I mean, Julio's got that kind of marketability to him. I think Bobby Witt's fun. I think Adley's fun. There's a lot of really good fun and entertaining players, and it's going to be interesting to see, how each of them develop, because Julio Rodriguez is a guy that has hit at every freaking stop as well, all the way back since 2018 in rookie ball, and gotten better and better and better and better at each level. And also has taken his physicality to the next level, as we mentioned. Are other guys going to kind of draw some inspiration from that, or is Julio just a freak of all freaks? It's really interesting to see, what kind of tone setter he can be for some of these other prospects that are at the top now. And speaking of prospects, this is probably one of my favorite questions we got. And this comes from D Hills on Twitter. It's DHILS on
Shout
Twitter.
out D Hills. He asks a lot
D.
of
Hills.
really good questions. He's always in this mailbag because he asks some of the best questions that we ever get. So I appreciate you, D Hills.
If Peter, Jack, and Aram were prospects, who would have the best hit, field, power, arm, and speed tool? Great question.
I want to hear you say it, then I'll give mine.
Yeah. Okay. So is this pre-injury or post? Don't think it makes a difference for me, honestly, because I'll give Jack the nod on arm, given that he's the pitcher.
And also my elbow blew up.
Your elbow literally exploded, so you're out on that.
And just a little bit about me, for anybody listening. I was, I played high school baseball, and we were all like good baseball players. But I was, I had a preferred walk-on spot to the University of Nevada because I had a great senior season. But the reason I didn't take it, well, first, have you ever been to Reno, Nevada? It sucks. I mean, shout out University of Nevada, good school, but I wasn't going to Reno, Nevada because my arm was going to explode. I mean, I broke my medial epicondyle freshman year of high school, throwing a pitch, fell to the ground, rushed into surgery. They said I wasn't going to throw again. I was like, screw that. Yeah, I am. So I came back and I was able to play and had that great senior season. But at the end of the day, like my arm was going to explode. Like it was, I could go play college baseball, but I knew I wasn't going to make it. I knew I wasn't going to make it. It's just like my arm was falling apart. So I'm giving the arm to Jack.
Yeah, arm to Jack. I had labrum surgery. I had a similar situation where it was torn.
This is why we didn't make the major leagues arm.
Oh yeah, that's the only reason. It's the only reason why I didn't play at a liberal. Only reason why I didn't play at a liberal arts school in the Northeast was my labrum situation. No, like it's a classic like Uncle Rico type of thing, but it's true. And I would say field. I'm going to give myself field. Okay. I pride myself on my defense. My dad raised me. You're going to play every position because that's how you stay in the lineup. And I did that. I'm going to give myself field. You got to get power. I mean, you're stronger than Jack and I for sure. And give you power, speed. You've admitted that you're slow as shit.
I'm a 15 grade runner. Like I broke the scale of being shitty.
And I'm burning 4 eyes. So I'm taking speed. So hit tool, you hit 370 your senior year. So I'm going to give you a hit tool. I was too mental. So I think you got hit tool. I got field. You got power. Jack gets arm. And then speed, Jack and I race to determine.
I bet you're faster than Jack. Jack, if you're listening, I bet arm would beat you in a race. Sharps, if there was a sharp betting, sharps are on arm.
I want to see what the line is at on that one. What's the line on me versus Jack speed wise?
I would say you're minus 155. You got a lot of juice, but I'm willing to lay 1.55 units on you. I think it's, I think you'd win. Sorry, Jack. Get faster, kid.
Yeah. Start running a little bit, buddy. Last question. Which team needs Luis Castillo or Tyler Mahle the most? Also, I hope they don't attach Mike Moustakas to one of those deals. That comes from Team Captain with a K 08 on Twitter.
First, why wouldn't you want to attach Mike Moustakas?
They're assuming that attaching Moustakas in his shitty contract will lessen the prospect return.
That makes
They
sense.
want to maximize prospect return, which I get because they already did the attach thing, right? They dumped a Eugenio Suarez. Hold on to Moose. Just deal with it. It's not that much longer. I would say the Jays need Luis Castillo as bad as anybody in baseball right now. I would have said the Twins maybe 2 weeks ago. You talk about Barrios' situation. Now we talk about Gausman. I think the Blue Jays need Luis Castillo or Tyler Mahle more than anybody.
It's the Blue Jays. It's the Twins. If the Phillies really want to go for it, the Phillies need another guy like him. And I
don't think they can do it. That's the thing.
You know who needs them, and I wouldn't be shocked. None of us would be shocked. The Los Angeles Dodgers need him. Walker Buehler went down. I know it's like, God damn it. Right. I mean, just, got to shoulder a little praise on the Dodgers. They went down with Walker Buehler, and Julio Urias has been great, and Clayton Kershaw has been great, and Tony Gonsolin has been great. but Dustin May is going to come back, which is, phenomenal for them. But I was talking with our guy, Dustin. I just think Dustin May should be a reliever. I don't know if with that arm action, I mean, he just throws crazy. I just don't know if that's going to last in a rotation for a long time. And I think he could be one of the best closers in baseball. I really do. If they put him back there, or they use him as a swing man, maybe come in the 5th, cover the 7th, use him as a weapon, because that's where I think he'd be the most effective. He can still be a great starter, clearly, because his stuff is insane. He's throwing 99-mile-an-hour turbo sinkers. He looks like Blake Trinan if you put him as a starter in 6 innings. That's the kind of arm that he has, but the Dodgers need him. And when
it's also to assume that you're going to get just instantly get Dustin May ready to pitch every 5th day and contribute. I think it's crazy. And you don't even know if Kershaw is going to stay healthy. Like, he keeps kind of being in and out, in and out, in and out. They can make a trade for anybody.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, dude, they got Trey Turner and Max Scherzer. I'd argue they needed them less last year.
Seriously.
Than they do now.
I think the Dodgers are going to go crazy at the deadline because just
systems.
This is going to suck to hear. Yeah. Tell them about the system. Tell the people about the system.
I can tell you.
Oh,
they could trade for anybody they want without touching one of their top 3 or 4 prospects, basically. That's what the Dodgers can do. And it's funny because the Yankees are like in a really good spot, and the Dodgers are still just kind of like, we've got even more.
Yankees are another team.
The Yankees are another one where they're already rumored to be, looking at those guys. And the problem is those 2 teams, the Yankees and the Dodgers, I think can kind of outbid anybody. Yep. And the Jays would have to be willing to part with one of their top prospects to do so. And not only will they probably have to do that just to keep them away from the Yankees, they might just have to do it, period. So that might be what happens. I think the Jays almost doubly need to do it, because if they don't, the freaking Yankees might do it. And that's like, it's similar to the Padres situation last year, where not only did the Padres not get Scherzer after the reports were that they were going to get Scherzer, the Dodgers got him. So it was like the worst case scenario. That is what I could see here too. So my short answer is, I think the Blue Jays need him worse than anybody, but I agree. All those other teams don't need him as bad, but they're definitely going to be calling. Blue Jays are my number 1.
I would also agree. The Blue Jays are my number 1 team too. I have a mailbag question for you.
Okay.
If you are the Blue Jays and you're in this situation right now with how good Alejandro Kirk is, would you trade Gabriel Moreno for Luis Castillo? It's so tough. I lean no still. But do you, I guess the main part of the question is, do you think the Blue Jays would be desperate enough to do it? Such a tough question.
I don't think so. Just because I would rather just go get Tyler Mahle then.
Yeah. Or, I mean, for example, like, would Zach Gallen require Gabriel Moreno? I don't think so, right?
No, hell no.
Okay.
I don't think so. So I would, is like, you'd have to give it pause just because, Luis Castillo can really help you. But at the end of the day, Luis Castillo is not Max Scherzer. Luis Castillo is not a really top 15 pitcher in the game. He's really
good.
He's really good.
He's probably top 20, 25-ish.
When he's healthy, when he's ready, absolutely.
He's disgusting.
Moreno, I think, can be so special.
Agreed.
It's
just because they have Alejandro Kirk. If they were just bring up Gabriel Moreno and he was the catcher of the future, it'd be like, of course, you would never do it. It's just because they have like the best catcher in the American League right now.
Yeah, I know.
So it's like they have this influx, and they also have Danny Jansen, who's proven that he could be a really reliable backup. I think Danny Jansen is one of the best backup catchers in baseball. So they just have all these guys.
Do you think they can win the World Series with Luis Castillo?
I mean, they'd be right there. I mean, anything can happen. You make the playoffs and anything can happen. And if Gausman doesn't fall off this cliff, and now you have Manoah, Gausman, Castillo, I mean, that's a trio that you do not want to face.
Yeah.
Not want to face.
I'm you know how I am with Moreno. It would be tough, but I think it's a great question. And I wonder what Jays fans think, if Jays fans would part with him. So let us know, tweet at us on Just BB Media if you would part with Gabriel Moreno to go get Luis Castillo. Could almost be straight up at that point. I mean, I don't even think you have to give up much else at that point. So that was our last question. Peter, any other final thoughts you have as we wind down the episode?
Yeah, I'm trying to make up a mock trade right now that could include Gabriel Moreno in a deal for Luis Castillo, because what they would need, I'm just looking at this Reds bullpen. It's just not that good. But
It's not good.
Like who?
Jeff Hoffman. Like what?
Yeah, like who? I mean, Ross Detweiler. I mean, who from this Reds bullpen? Yeah,
no one that's going to move the needle for you.
No one's moving this needle. God, this Reds bullpen sucks. I've seen them, but I mean, yeah, there's nobody. I mean,
there's no way.
Sessa, but like Sessa hasn't performed that well this year. Hoffman, really he's like more of a starter. I mean, yeah,
I can't imagine the Jays doing it. And I think if they would, they would have done it by now. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out. They are going to make a move though. And I wonder what that move is going to be, because they do have a ton of infield prospects. Jordan Groshans, I don't really see where he fits in long-term. So maybe that's a move that they make for Tyler Mahle or something like that, and a little bit less dramatic. And Mahle might pitch really well in a different environment. We know his home road splits, so it could be very interesting. Any final thoughts as we plug the socials?
I think the Yankees are scaring me a little bit, because I know, we talked about the Astros and how good they are. That's the only thing. I'm just watch the Yankees for these next couple of weeks.
Okay.
I'm even like talking to you too. Like they're not, I mean, they just lost to Pittsburgh today and Jose Quintana, which, I bet on the Yankees and I never bet on the Yankees. And the reason why I was like, this is bread and butter. Yankees.
Quintana's
going to return back to Pittsburgh. Thought he'd put together a good outing. The legit opposite happened. As much as we love Nestor, is Nestor going 180 innings this year? Severino is a guy who has had injury concerns throughout his career. J-Mont is solid, Jordan Montgomery, and then we have Garrett Cole. Just watch this starting rotation too. The Yankees are not as impenetrable as I feel like the allure still is out there. And that's coming from a Yankee fan who watches.
What changed? We were like, they're the best team ever 2 weeks ago.
Well, they were. They legit look like the best team ever 2 weeks. They just don't lose. But that's the Yankees, right? They go through the ups and downs. And maybe I'm overthinking this, because I have always expected the Yankees to kind of go through some lulls. And maybe this is when it's starting to come. So all I'm saying is watch the Yankees for the next couple of weeks and tell me they're the best team of all time, because it's hard to look at them right now and say they're even the best team in the American League. I have to be honest.
The Astros, it is amazing how good the Astros look right now.
Kyle Tucker hit sixth. Kyle Tucker hit sixth. He's like a top 10 player.
And Jordan's starting to look like one of the best hitters in baseball, period. And of course, the Yankees have the best hitter in baseball right now in Aaron Judge. But
I don't know if he is.
28-23 right now.
I don't know if he is. That's what I'm saying. Is Aaron Judge the best hitter in the American League?
Right now.
Better than Jordan. Better than Jordan? I don't know.
We'll see. It'll be interesting because he's playing like on a different level. Can he sustain it the whole year?
He's a better player. If we're talking about just pure hitter, because Jordan, the WRC plus, Aaron Judge has more home runs, but basically Jordan has better.
Aaron Judge DH though, I think he would do.
Agreed. You're probably right. But maybe fielding helps him. Like even Stanton, when he plays in the field, he hits better. It's weird. But then even like a guy like Wilson Contreras, when he DHs, hits way better than when he catches.
Yeah,
it's weird. Baseball's weird.
That's usually most guys. They love it.
Most
guys love it. But if you're hitting bad, DHing kind of sucks because you got to think about it a little bit more. Anything we have coming up? I just dropped. Oh, I guess people can check out now. I just dropped, if you're listening, by the time you're listening to this, Rockies top 10 prospects, actually a much improved system. I know your initial thought would be like, oh shit, at Rockies, why do I care? Really sick middle infielders in there, actually, that I had a blast writing up, including Adael Amador, Ezekiel Tovar, some other interesting names. Zach Veen is a freak. Wrote up that system. I'll be answering questions in our chalkboard group all day in the prospect channel. Just kind of answering any questions you have on the Rocky system and any of my write-ups and thoughts on that top 10. That's all I got. I know you usually plug the chalkboard, so I built that one in for you. Any other things you got?
So unfortunately, I've been traveling a bunch, so I haven't been able to do some Prize Picks Twitter spaces in the past couple of days, but we've been very, very good this entire season on Prize Picks. And if you use code JustBaseball, they will fully match your deposit on Prize Picks. And, we love playing daily fantasy. That's what Prize Picks is. We have this entire Prize Picks Twitter space on my Twitter at PeterApple23, where the big thing is, it's like, if I give out 5 picks, it's very unlikely that I'm going to go 5 for 5 all the time. So why it's been so great is we get the baseball community together and everybody gives their best They're one best pick, and we've been very good this year. So if you want to join in, it's really fun. You don't even have to play it, but just to hear kind of the analysis, it's really cool hearing from a bunch of different fans across a bunch of different teams talk about the pulse of this player on their team. It's a really fun time. And if you do want to play along with us, might as well use some free money with Prize Picks, right? If they'll fully match your deposit, use the free money. And if you don't like it, no worries, because I love it. It's very fun. And everybody who's been joining says how much fun it is.
It's for every sport too.
It's very fun too.
So it's for every sport as well.
Exactly.
So
not just baseball,
football, basketball. They had it for the hot dog eating contest. Even you could take the over-unders, player props, all that stuff. And it's probably one of the easier parlay type things you can do, because you can pick any player prop you want. So I'm a big fan of it. Promo code just baseball. Go check that out. Links in the description. And with that, Peter,
thank you, everybody.